You are listening to the Young Black Travelers podcast. Black voices talking on experiential travel, dedicated to creating a global community of travelers. So, be bold, be inspired, be spontaneous. We are YBT. Well, hello, listeners, travelers. Welcome to the Young Black Travelers podcast. My name is Asher Cunningham. You all know me. And like we do on all of our episodes, we always bring to you someone special, someone you can learn from. And on today's podcast, we have a friend of mine. I'm sure you've all followed. Many of you may follow him. And I'm going to let him introduce himself to you. I'm going to pass the mic to you.
Oh, I had to introduce myself? Okay. All
The
right, cool. Hi, everyone. This is the Young Black Travelers podcast. My name is Joshua Dwain. I am a New York City-based uh, photographer and creative. I also do direction and producing of several different projects alongside my wife, Anika. We are Joshua Dwayne Photography. And thank you for having me, Kishon. It's an honor to be here today.
Wow. So I always thank you for joining the podcast. So I'm sure all of you have just heard him say, thank you for having me, Kishan.
Oh, my bad.
And so so you guys, that's okay. That's my middle name. People who knew me from you always know me from a particular part in life based on that name that they use. And so you would know that Joshua probably knew me from when I first came to this country because that's the
Uh-huh.
name I carried first, which is my name, but the name I no longer use so much anymore.
I'm sorry. I do call
But
you Asher a lot. However, going it's hard to like,
Keyshawn just
sort of
came out.
yeah, it's hard. I honestly, I don't know what other people call you. I just know that what I have you stored in my phone. And funny enough, I have you as Asher Kishon. And my wife calls you Asher, Kishon all the time. When I'm talking to you, I either say Asher or Kishon. It just, I apologize, man.
No apology needed. It is my name. It is my name. But Joshua, thank you for coming to the podcast. And as that's why we have you introduce yourself for you to really tell the listeners what you really want them to know, and everything you said are things that I think the world should know about you. And so we're going to be talking a lot on this podcast about, we're going to be exploring you beyond photography and wedding photography. But let's first start the conversation about, how did you get into wedding photography? What led you into that? And yeah, and what's leading you into expanding your brand into other areas?
Yeah, man. So, funny enough, a friend of mine was getting married, and I used to have this blog. I don't know if people know what blogs are anymore,
They
but
don't.
I basically had this website that I sort of like just posted, random pictures. I used to post everything there. Like if I took a picture of a bridge,
Hmm.
if I took a picture of like, sneakers hanging on like the phone lines in Brooklyn, I took pictures of people on the street, things like that, inanimate objects like fruit and, you know,
Hmm.
statues. I used to post my
Okay.
pictures on a blog on my blog actually.
Mm.
And she saw my blog. I think I randomly like post a link on my Facebook at the time. And this is back way back in 2008. And she called me and was just like, "Hey, Josh, you have to shoot my wedding." Now, you have to understand at this point, I didn't consider myself a professional photographer. I
Mhm.
had a day job. Um, Photography was just a really like a strong passion that I had. I started
Wow.
shooting. I started shooting in high school. I'm not even like date myself or
Mm.
age myself and tell you what year that was, but I started shooting back in high school, and
Wow.
it was just something like a hobby, something that I really loved to do. And funny
Mm.
enough, she saw my blog and was just like, "Hey, you have to shoot my wedding." And it sort of was like a beautiful thing that happened out of it. I didn't say yes. I was just
Mm.
like, "Hey, let me think about this." Just understanding what weddings are and your significance and understanding like this is somebody's life um memories. And the
Hmm.
reality is I didn't even have the equipment to shoot a wedding. I just had like on a camera and probably like a lens or two, but
Okay.
I didn't take it seriously. I didn't take myself seriously. And then when I say it, I didn't take the art of photography as serious. I didn't really know, you know, anything, what it meant to run a business or do anything like that. But
Wow.
it sort of took me down this rabbit hole of what wedding photography is, and uh, I started doing my research. And uh, honestly, I told her like, "Hey, you need to book an actual photographer. I will come and I'll take pictures at the wedding, but I don't think that this is something that is suited for me as like a novice photographer." So she
Wow.
did just that. I shot we sort of like, you know, behind the scenes at her wedding and got some really good pictures. And I started studying what it meant to be a wedding photographer. I started shooting under other photographers
Hmm.
leading up to her wedding, and the rest is history.
Wow. And so now you are even more than a wedding photographer, right? So you're expanding your brand. And so what is leading you into these other avenues?
Yeah, so funny that you say. I'm glad you say that I'm more than a wedding photographer because the reality is I don't brand myself as a wedding photographer. I no longer
Hmm.
do that um, because you know to be a wedding photographer, you have to be so many other things.
Hmm.
It's more than just the event. It's portraits. It's dealing with families. It's you're a portrait photographer, a family photographer, a product photographer. You're so many different. You wear so many hats as a wedding photographer, and becoming a wedding photographer allowed me to see what I like my strong suit, and allowed me to
Hmm.
see or develop my skill as a photographer, and sort of let me know like I'm really not here for the events. Or you take
Ah.
that back because I am here for the events, but I am not here presently as a photographer for the events themselves.
Got you.
I'm here, to capture moments. I'm here to, you're almost like a documentary photographer. You're almost like a
Yeah.
portrait photographer. You do so many things. So, doing it for over 15 years, I've realized that
Wow.
I, I, I didn't become a photographer to become a wedding photographer.
Hmm.
I became a photographer because I love taking photos of people, and that's the
Yeah.
reality. I capture a moment. So, although I do enjoy still shooting weddings,
Hmm.
I do love taking portraits. I do love capturing people, as they are. It's funny, like, I started my career back in 2008, and like a lot of my friends at the time were like having children or whatever, and some of these kids are like 16 years old now. So it's funny, like I'll start taking pictures of them and their children,
Hmm.
early in my career, and then to see these kids grow up, it's sort of like it I don't know, it's just a funny feeling that you have, like, you can see, like, your career evolve along with the
Wow.
children sort of growing up. You can see, like, really, I enjoyed shooting people, and I enjoyed sort of, like, encapsulating time. So,
Hmm.
that's more or less what led me to sort of pursue things outside of photography because I really didn't start as a wedding photographer. I just
Wow.
got into the wedding game, and I was really good at it.
Yeah.
Um, and I enjoy doing it. I still do to this day, but I do have interests outside of wedding photography.
Makes sense. And so, listen, before we go to break, I have one final question for you, and that is, which destination has been your favorite thus far that
Uh,
you visited?
that's a tough question, man. I know you want me to say St.
Go.
Vincent, but
I don't. No, I don't. I really.
I know you want me to say St. Vincent, bro.
Listen,
Um,
if it is, then say it. But
nah,
you don't
nah,
have to say St. Vincent.
the reality is, I don't know if I have a top. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
I've been to so many different places, and so many places were beautiful. We shot a wedding a few years ago on the countryside in England. Oh my gosh, it
Mhm.
was just beautiful. Like when sheep, like you see like pastures of fields and sheep. It was like it looked like it looked like a screensaver. It was beautiful, and we've been to, um, Santorini. We shot a couple
Mm,
in Santorini, and it was just gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. Um, but funny enough, I probably wouldn't say, like, a lot of my travels ooh, that's a lie. So we've been to Hawaii, and honestly, my wife and I think Hawaii is one of the most beautiful places on earth. Um, we had a really good time there, and fortunately, like, we went there for vacation a few years ago, and then about 2 years ago, we had the opportunity to shoot a wedding there, and
wow.
it did not disappoint. Um, so I wanna say just because of vibe by itself, Hawaii is probably top of our list. Um,
Okay.
yeah, but I mean, there's a lotta I've been to 32 countries, man, like, there's a lotta countries that are
The
just, like, top of the list.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So far Hawaii ranks as up there for you, but
Yeah.
okay. Well, maybe we could scale back that question. So by the end, I'll probably think of something to scale it back to get
Okay.
something. Maybe you could say that. Well, you don't party anymore. So like some people may say the destination that I enjoyed the most, like I had a time of my life. Some people have a top for that. Some people have a
Yeah,
top
well,
for
yeah,
beauty.
yeah. I would say that I would say, like, some locations we weren't booked to go to. We traveled ourselves without, people hiring us to go any places. Like, we absolutely
Hmm.
loved, um, Spain. I think where were we? It wasn't Tenerife. It was Malaga. Malaga. You talked about this?
Yes,
Malaga,
yes,
right?
yes,
You called it
yes.
Malaga. Did you call it Malaga?
I call it Malaga.
Malaga. See, now I don't even know what it is anymore.
You're more than likely right. You've been there.
That was beautiful, and we didn't take, we weren't hired to go there. We just sort of visited, and I think that was a beautiful place to go to. So,
Got
yeah,
you.
we could spin a block on that question at the end of the conversation, see what it comes up.
Okay. All right. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we are going to get into the meat of this conversation with Joshua. So stay tuned. All right, so welcome back to the Young Black Travelers podcast. Today we have Joshua Dwain joining us for a very special conversation. You know, if you haven't followed Joshua Dwain on Instagram, if you haven't seen his work, I will highly suggest that you go over to his website, go over to Instagram, Facebook, wherever you would find his stuff. But go to his website, www.joshuadwayne.com, correct?
No, that's correct.
And so would see his work there, but you know that he started as a wedding photographer, as he said in the last segment. But he's more than that, right? He does a lot more now. But let's start with this question, Josh. Was traveling for work always part of your vision, or did it happen just naturally as your brand grew?
So, it was always part of my plan,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it definitely happened organically. I wanted it to happen. I there were photographers that I idolized, in California and, um, in Atlanta, and those guys were always traveling early in my career.
Mm,
So, it was something that I wanted to do. I don't wanna say something like I manifested or anything like that, but, it's something I wanted, and thankfully, early enough, I had clients that also desired to travel and
wow.
to shoot, well, not shoot, but to have their weddings abroad, so, yeah.
Wow. And so, how early in your career? So, we're thinking about career advice for young people. How early in your career would you say that you were traveling, shooting?
I probably wanna say within the first 5 years, I was definitely traveling. I wanna say I'd say even earlier than that, probably in year 3, I was heading to St. Thomas for a wedding. By year
Wow.
5, I was doing, weddings in Mexico.
Wow. Wow. And
Yeah.
and by the way, we're having this conversation and you will hear a lot more conversations like these because we know a lot of people, young black people, people in general really want to travel, and we really want to expose people to different ways that they could travel. Work can take you there, and a lot of times it's not the typical 9 to 5 in corporate that may be the thing that take you to a different destination around the world. They do. But, there are careers like Joshua's that actually take you to many different places and you have a lot of flexibility. So, I mean, if you're good, first, if you love it, then maybe this is something that you would want to consider, right? So, work has
Yeah.
taken Joshua around the world. But, Joshua, so next one. So, I know that you've recently gone to my homeland, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So tell the listeners, why did you go to St. Vincent and the Grenadines? And what was your first impressions of my homeland, St. Vincent and the Grenadines?
Okay. So I went to St. Vincent. You know, it's funny. Like I honestly, if I had to say, I didn't have any desire to go to St. Vincent. And
Okay.
not that I didn't want to go, but desire, like when you're thinking about like, hey, my next destination, you're not saying St. Vincent is the place you want to go, right? I'm just starting right there. You
Hmm.
say I would love to go to St. Vincent, but the reality is a lot of times, you feel like if you've been to like a couple of Caribbean islands, like you don't
Mm,
really need to go to all of them.
correct.
Um, but funny enough, I have a client who is of St. Vincent descent,
Hmm.
and uh, she was traveling there because she was hosting an event, the St. Vincent Miss St. Vincent pageant.
Miss
So she had to
SVG.
she yeah, Miss SPG, and
Hmm.
she wanted coverage, photography, video. And one of my partners who sort of does video couldn't make it. He's part we produce the same content or the content for our client. He couldn't make
Okay.
it, and I I filled that role. It was great, man. Like, yes, go back to your second question. Like I said, I didn't care about going to St. Vincent. I wanted to go, but I really didn't really care. But let me tell you
Hmm.
something. St.
Tell
Vincent
us.
blew the socks off of me. Seriously.
Okay.
Like I I when you're dealing with the Caribbean, you sort of have to especially being Caribbean because my parents are Jamaican.
Hmm.
I go to Jamaica a lot. I've been there a lot over the course of my life. And
Mm.
you have to sort of temper your expectations when you're dealing with St. Vincent. I'm not St. Vincent, when you go
Wow.
to the Caribbean,
Hmm.
take it back. When you go to the Caribbean, you have to temper your expectations. Like I said, I've been to Jamaica, St. Lucia, Haiti, DR, Puerto Rico,
Wow.
Barbados,
Wow.
Cuba. Uh,
Hmm.
I'm sure I'm missing a few, but I've been to a lot of Caribbean
a,
islands.
a
Um,
wide variety,
yeah, a
right?
wide variety of
English,
Caribbean
French.
islands.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, yeah. St. Martin, Barbados, the Bahamas.
Wow.
So you sort of know what you're getting into over the course. Like you have an understanding of what to expect.
Hmm.
St. Vincent was a completely different animal than what I expected. Let's start with the people. People were amazing.
Wow.
Very homely, very inviting.
Mm.
You can go to like you sort of feel at home when you're I felt like at home. And I don't know if it's because um of what I've experienced in other islands where I didn't expect that, but
Mm.
everyone was just nice. Everyone was so welcoming and warming, and I
Wow.
really enjoyed that atmosphere. Caribbean has the best atmosphere in the world. I don't care what anybody says.
Mm.
Culture, weather, um,
Correct.
food.
Yeah.
That sort of atmosphere is something that I quite enjoyed. So, um, St. Vincent, very
It's
good.
up there. It's up there.
Yeah,
It blew
yeah, yeah.
your mind. It
It did. It
exceeded
did. I said
your
blue to socks, but
expectation.
I said blue socks. Okay, I'm
Okay,
gonna say blue.
we'll take socks. We'll take the socks. But one of the things we also know, and if you follow him, you'll kind of understand the client he's talking about. So I would highly suggest you probably go see his work. But what I know is that you were taking photographs in many different places, right? And so one of the
Uh-huh.
thing about traveling as a photographer, you face many different challenges. How do you overcome a lot of
Yeah.
those challenges, especially in many different environments, and particularly in a place like St. Vincent that has a diversity of maybe mountains and oceans and seas? Like, how do you overcome a lot of those challenges as a photographer?
Well, one of my mantras is, as you know, as a creative, that you really have to embrace any challenge.
Mm,
Don't look at your challenges as a setback, right? Like if you do that, you're already defeated because
yeah.
you're missing all the possibilities that there is. So,
Hmm.
um, you know, I don't see environments as more or less like a challenge unless I'm like prohibited from doing anything. Um,
Makes sense.
but as a creative, one of the great things that happened to me is that I was able to touch base with a local photographer. His name in St. Vincent, his name is Devontae Peters.
Okay.
They call him Corey. Listen,
Devontae
this
Peters.
is my guy. We were able to talk about a week before traveling to St. Vincent. He was able to let me know where I can shoot.
Mm,
Or, well, first off, he asked me what I was looking for, and we talked about what I was looking for, what I wanted to do, you know, even down to the time of day that I wanted to shoot, some of the
mm,
things that I was expecting,
okay.
and he gave me options, and based off the options, I asked my questions, and based off these questions really come off of experience that I've had.
Mm,
Um, you know, Even shooting here in the US, I'm able to sort of ask those questions or the things that I'm typically used to doing here in the US or here in New York.
mm.
I relay that right back to St. Vincent. Like, okay, how is travel gonna be? You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, um, is shooting in the afternoon versus shooting early in the morning, like what's that like?
Wow.
And there's a lot of times in New York, shooting here, you have to sacrifice things that you want to do. Like, for example, shooting on a Brooklyn Bridge, I would
Mhm.
never recommend that to anybody, shooting at 2 p.m. in the afternoon or shooting at
Wow.
4 p.m. or 5 p.m. when you're getting literally the best light possible. You just can't do it. Logistically, it's a nightmare because it's a tourist trap.
Wow, true.
But so to how you circumvent that, instead of shooting at 4 p.m. when you're getting the best light, you would
Mhm.
go to the Brooklyn Bridge at 7 p.m. when there's no one there, and you're getting not as good light, but you're getting better light than you would get at noon, or better light than you would
Mm.
get at 10 p.m. So,
Wow.
I asked Devontae, like, so how's travel versus 2 p.m. versus shooting at 7 a.m. And he was able to
Mhm.
answer like small things. So um challenges you overcome, touch base with somebody that's local, who is willing and able to share with you, their experience.
Wow. Makes sense. Makes sense. That's really good. And I've actually seen a lot of content creators are actually using that strategy now. Um, yeah, it's something that is quite common because you really want to meet with someone who know the lay of the land, right? If
Yeah,
you're going in having no clue of what to expect, you're going to face a lot of challenges, and there's going to be a lot of learning that you're going to have to do. So
for sure.
certainly that's a good piece of advice. Really connect with people who are there who could really help you through it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the reality is that there's not that much time to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Um, you're allocated like a day for a photo shoot, and you're allocated not even the day, but you have a few hours to get this. So,
Hmm.
if you're not shooting for yourself, you have clients that are vested and have other things to do for the time that you're there. So it's important that you're connecting with someone local so that you can mitigate any mistakes that you need, and also having backup equipment.
Hmm.
Devontae, I had my own equipment, but Devontae had other things that I didn't have present because I didn't need to. I connected with him. He said, I had this, I
Yeah.
had that. I don't even need to bring it into the country because someone's local has
It's
it.
already
So I was
there.
able to use it and not necessarily. feel overwhelmed with trying to bring certain things into the country.
Wow. That is really good. Listen, y'all better listen to the pro. Listen to the pro. This is really good advice for anyone, and in many different I think industries, right? It's not only photography. It could mean maybe you're in healthcare, maybe you're in education, maybe
Yep.
you're in law. Wherever, whatever industry you're in, and you're probably traveling for work. I honestly think this advice actually go for you. So definitely listen to this piece of advice. Josh, so what would you say has been the most rewarding part of combining your travel with your photography career?
Um, the most rewarding part is that I'm able to see the world.
Mm,
It's as a photographer, you're able to shape the world around you or understand how the world works outside of your little pocket. You
wow.
being in New York, um, as diverse as it is, New York has its own culture. It has
Yeah.
a way that it runs specifically. Uh,
Hmm.
but traveling the world gives you, more of a perspective of how people outside of my, uh, dare I say, four walls, but my area, thinks and how they appreciate certain things. So, it sort of shapes the world around you,
Mm,
being able to travel. So you're not small minded. You don't you learn to appreciate certain things. You even appreciate leaving,
mhm.
um,
Yeah.
Brooklyn, a lot. So I'm
Yeah.
thankful that I'm able to travel. I'm thankful that I'm able to see the world around me. And more important, like my portfolio thanks all my clients who allow me to travel because um, you know, traveling traveling it sort of it sort of allows you to sort of, how do I say this? Your perspective changes when you travel.
Hmm.
And not even from like a worldview, but just your the way you see things, you're able to appreciate your creativity grows a lot more when you're traveling. Funny
Yeah.
enough, um, I spoke to a photographer recently when I went to their country and I traveled and I took pictures, and they're used to the same mundane thing, right? To them, it's
Gotcha.
mundane. To them, it's like this is what I see all the time.
Hmm.
However, for me, as a photographer coming into their environment for the first time, and them being with me and shooting alongside me, they're like, "Wow, I don't look at it the same way you look at it." Like,
Hmm.
once I see your pictures, it gives me a breath of fresh air, like, I could see it a completely different way. I'm thinking that these places are overused. I'm thinking that these places this is what he's saying. He's saying that he thinks that these places are, like, regular, and he's like, "I can't wait to come to where you are, Josh," or, "I can't wait to shoot in other environments." But when I'm coming there, obviously, I'm in New York, it's urban, it's much different.
Yeah.
Um, I'm coming with fresh eyes. So
Yeah.
the one of the most fortunate things that I have is coming into a different environment. I'm able to see things differently and appreciate those things. I'm sure if I go to a place like Utah
Hmm.
or if I go to a place like Colorado, even going to California, I'm able to sort of like your creativity peaks and you sort of
Yeah.
see things differently. And I'm sure it's the same way when other creatives come to New York or come to Brooklyn, they're able to see uh, or their creativity peak in a different way. So for me, it's one of those things where I'm telling photographers like you need to travel.
Wow.
It's more than appreciation. It's sort of like a fresh start or reboost for your creativity.
Wow. And so, what would you say if you think about a destination that you've been? Um, where were one of those places that you've been? It could be recently, it could been maybe ages ago, that you felt that it really peaked a new level of creativity for whatever reason it did. Um, yeah, maybe it was unique. Maybe, yeah, just like New York could do something to a person, where could that place have been for you?
Hmm. That sounds like an easy question, but I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about it, and I'm, like, trying not to pit these 2 places against each other. Um,
Well, probably say both of them. So what are the two places?
I wanna say oh, that's so tough, man. I'm not thinking another place. Um, um, so the complete opposite for me of New York is all like, Vegas is,
Oh,
complete opposite, and I say Vegas, like the desert.
okay.
Actually, let's take that even let's take that back. One of the places that I really enjoyed shooting, it's so obscure, it's, White Sands, New Mexico,
Mm,
and
wow.
it's White Sands, New Mexico because it is completely opposite of what New York is. New York is
Mm,
skyscrapers, it could be grassy, you went garden and, lots of foliage,
mhm.
urban. White Sands is nothing but sky and sand. It's a desert.
Wow.
So for me, um, it was a really great challenge sort of creating there. When you think of like a lot of times I talk to my clients about where they're going to shoot photos or take photos, and it's for them, I try to get them to understand like, let's pick a location where you don't necessarily like if you're conscious and really self-conscious and nervous about taking pictures. Let's pick
Mhm,
a location that, can give equal amount of energy that you will bring, right?
mm,
Or even more energy than you will bring, right? Like, you think of backdrops of cityscapes and buildings and all that and architecture. A lot of
mhm,
times, the architecture does all the heavy lifting. You're like,
mm.
people look at them like, "Oh my god, where you shot was beautiful." Right? They'll talk about the location more than
Yeah,
they'll talk about the subjects in the photos, because a lot of times your backdrops are doing the heavy lifting. You compare
yeah.
that to a white backdrop in the studio, you know, the white backdrop is doing none of the heavy lifting. It's really just the subject in front of the camera.
Mm,
Um, so with White Sands, it was sort of like a blank canvas. And I'm gonna put that location by itself. I am not gonna even compare with anything else. I think that was one that brought the most unique challenges,
mm.
and, I've been dying to go back. It's been a couple years since I've been there, but I would have to say White Sands, New Mexico.
White Sands, New Mexico. Wow. Okay, that's a place that
Yeah.
I would have to look up as well. White Sands. And what
Yeah,
are
check it out,
probably
man.
some? I'm gonna check. I'm definitely gonna check it out. And what are some of the places that are on the top of your mind that you would remember that your travels and your photography has taken you? Just list a few before we go to break.
Okay. I mentioned earlier, the, countryside of England.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned earlier Santorini. I mentioned
Mm-hmm.
earlier before, Hawaii,
Okay.
but Cape Town, beautiful place, to shoot. Um,
Yes.
Mauritius, beautiful
Wow.
place to shoot. Uh,
Ooh.
I could make a picture any day in Thailand, hands down. And
Wow.
this is from Bangkok to Phuket.
Mm,
I think the country offers a really dynamic backdrop for a photographer.
wow.
Cuba, Lord have mercy. Pictures all day in Cuba. Cuba was amazing. Um, as far as the backdrop is concerned, you're sort of like stuck in a time capsule. I
Wow.
always love taking pictures of Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
When it's not a resort, obviously. I love the more organic feel of Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
Always has a homely feeling.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, we could
Wow.
cut it there.
Wow. I mean, those were some phenomenal places. And I think the one that's, well, two of them stick at the top of my mind is you said Thailand and South Africa, Cape Town. Man, I could just imagine those shots, those sceneries. But last question before we go to break. Do
Yeah.
you personally, outside of your clients, do you personally keep well, how do you keep track of your the work you do? Is there something you do to, like, as an artifact? Is it a book? Do you just keep them on the computer? What do you do?
Yeah, I have archive on my computer. That
No
I
books?
but no books. I started to sort of like print my work and sort of catalog the things that I have done. The
Correct.
problem is the minute you make a book, you realize you need to add more and you need to make another book. So you're waiting to sort of archive more things. Um, while I do think they all deserve to be in books, at the moment it's just uh, a catalog for myself of archived photos online.
Wow. Okay. Well, so that's the way Josh preserves his work, which is like the way most of us do online. But
No,
listen.
well, I'll say this. It is online, but it's not public. This is online, and it's like I see my like I literally have a folder that I
Mhm.
drop my favorite images in that I
Oh,
always have on hand. I'm
makes sense.
constantly updating it. It's a weekly update for me.
Oh, wow. And
Yeah.
it's usually your favorite work, not all the work you do, just like
No, no, no.
one or two. Okay.
Correct, correct.
Makes sense.
So
This
like
is
out of
good.
every shoot, I have a I have this thing, right? Like
Mhm.
every shoot that I do I need to have at least one portfolio image. Um, and I strive to have one photo. So I can do an entire wedding that
Mhm.
I have 900 images, or I could do a portrait session where I have just 10 images. Um, and I need to have one portfolio image from that shoot, from a given shoot that I'm using to sort of preserve as an archive of my time doing this piece of work. And that's important to me to have. So yeah, I definitely do have that archive. It's not in
Wow.
book form, but one day, hopefully that it does make it public and in book form.
That's gonna be a lot of work. But that's when we're, well, hopefully sooner rather than later, we're all remembering the great Joshua the Great. And there's a whole exhibit at the Brooklyn Museum, at the Met Opera, wherever,
That'd be
all his pieces.
fire.
We're speaking it into
That'd
existence.
that
um
yes, yes.
the book of Josh.
There we go. The Book of Joshua Dwayne. I like that.
I like, yes. So that's gonna happen soon. The book of Joshua Dwayne coming to the Brooklyn Museum. But we are going to go on break right there. And when we come back, we're gonna wrap this entire conversation up with Joshua Dwayne. So stay tuned. All right, so welcome back to the close of this conversation. As you know, we have a special guest with us, Joshua Dwayne Frith. You follow him, well, hopefully by now you're following him on Instagram. Hopefully by now you've gone to his website, you're seeing his work. Hopefully by now you should know a little bit more about him, because I mean, we've been talking now for quite some time about his work, and we're going beyond his wedding photography, right? You by now you should know that Joshua's passion started from his love of photography and capturing images, and not because he wanted to shoot weddings. But maybe from that conversation, you are recognizing that maybe sometimes we all get into different places in life based on maybe something that could be what's trending. And I think that's what Joshua did, and what could have paid the bills in the moment. So that the man got into wedding photography, and and it worked. And he really has killed the game. And now he's getting into just everything else, right? But before Joshua, close us out, we always on our podcast take the moment out to shout out someone who's connected to our guests, someone who may be connected to YBT. They may listen to our podcast. They may follow us on Instagram. They're connected to us in some way. But this person, this brand is connected to both of us in all of these ways. And so on this podcast episode, we're going to take the time out to shout out a brand we think you all should check out and explore and actually patronize. And they are Airing Envy. And they are on Instagram. That's EARRING_ENVY. Listen, so if you are into maybe fashion products and you want little accessories, Christmas is coming up, you may want to go and probably buy a little gift. The earrings are really nice. They go for both women and men. And by the way, Airing Envy is actually ran by the wife of Joshua Dwain. And so anything you want to say about this brand, Josh?
Yes, I want to emphasize that underscore in that name, because if you search Airing Envy without the underscore in between the Airing and Envy, you're gonna come up on a brand that is not ours. And funny enough, some of my friends can't catch the fact that they're not following my wife's brand, but they do follow the brand. I haven't checked them on it. But yeah, Airing Envy is my wife's brand. She is the owner and CEO, and she does damn near everything for the brand.
Wow.
She is passionate about making earrings. I love what she does, and yeah, she's growing, and I'm happy for anyone who supports her in her endeavors.
Wow. Listen, this is Black excellence right here. Support Black, buy Black. We are Young Black Travelers. So we are obviously a Black brand. And so we are asking you, we're asking you, I'm not telling you, go out, check it out, go to Instagram. And I'm sure you're going to like what you see. So yes, go out and
Question for you, Kishore. Or Asher. Sorry. Question for you, Asher. You got your ears pierced?
I don't got my ears pierced.
You don't got your ears pierced? Okay. All right.
No.
All right, cool. I was going to check you. I was going to check you, bro.
Where is my Airing Envy?
Yeah, where is your Airing Envy?
I actually was thinking about getting my ears pierced just for that purpose. But
oh yeah,
I don't know about that. I still have to figure out that piece of my journey. I'm a tattoo
at this
head
age,
these days.
at this age, it's a commitment. It's usually people get the ears pierced or whatever at younger age,
Correct.
in their teenage years or early 20s or what have you. You crack 30, so
Now, why you gonna tell them all my business? They don't know that I'm 30.
So you're still young, bro. You're still young. You're good. You're good.
Yes. So, but for those of you who has your ears pierced, both women and men, definitely check out Airing Envy, and you're going to really, really, really like the products that are up there. But Josh, on all of our podcasts, we try to play a game to close things out, and we usually play this game, this or that, and so there's really no in between here. Choose one. And these questions are curated just for you. And so it's this or that. So here we go. You're going to pick one, this or that. So destination wedding or local weddings?
Dude.
Your preference.
It's a no-brainer. Actually, this is kind of tough. There's local weddings, you could go home. Right after that, you ain't got to deal with no airports or nothing.
Okay.
But I'm gonna have to say destination weddings. And this changes with the wind. For example, if I do like 5 destinations in a year and I'm sick and tired of traveling, I'll be like local wedding. But for right now, I'm gonna go with destination wedding.
Wow, that's a good one. So golden hour or nighttime photography?
Golden hour. Golden hour is probably just like a few minutes before nighttime. So I'm gonna go golden hour. That's some light.
Okay. Tropical beaches or mountain landscapes?
Ooh. These answers change with the wind. Right now, I'm gonna say the mountain.
Mountain. Okay.
Yeah, we're saying
All
mountains for
right.
now.
Okay. So shooting events indoors or outdoors? Let's say shooting weddings indoors or outdoors. Which is better?
There's so many that comes with this. There's so much context that we're missing. Is it the daylight? Is it hot?
Let's say which
Um,
best product?
the best products you're gonna. It really matters time of day, but I'm just gonna say indoors, because you can
Indoors.
control the variables. You can control a lot when you're indoors. You can't control anything outside.
That is true. Good, good. All right. So exploring new cities alone or with a team?
There's so many benefits to both sides, but I'm gonna say alone.
Oh, wow. Okay. I was expecting you to say with a team, but cool. This is
If
good.
you said exploring a city with my wife, then I would say yes. Exploring with a bunch of people, a bunch of other people,
By myself.
I just go by myself.
No, I hear you. I hear you. Capturing candid moments or posed shoots.
Where did you get these questions from, bro? Can I take both?
No. Which one is the better option for you?
There is no better. There's no better than posed than authentic, like uncontrived moments. There is no better. Like they both have areas
Wow.
where they're fitting to have. But as far as what's easier, I'm gonna say the post.
The post. Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. And last one, famous landmarks or hidden gems.
Hidden gems. Hidden gems. Why? Because famous landmarks are gonna have a bunch of other people that know about those landmarks. A hidden gem, no one knows about them, and you can take your time. You're not bogged down, and you're not really worried for time or anything like that. So for sure, hidden gem.
Yeah, no, that is good. And as we wrap this episode up, listen, keep that advice there. Go to the hidden gems. Look for the hidden gems because I mean, if you've traveled enough, you know that everyone goes to the places that are Instagram famous, the places that everyone recommend that you go, and then usually everyone go at the same time. And if you don't like people, well, let me pull that back. If you don't like crowds, and if you get bothered by crowds, and if you probably want the pictures that you see everybody posting, you can't go to these famous landmarks at the peak time. So look for the less traveled road, the less beaten path. Go off those the beaten path and just explore a different side of a city. And probably those, would you say those are the places that people may get some of the pictures that could be the next Instagram famous, the next magazine famous
Yeah,
shots?
for sure. For sure. I think a lot of places that I've gone to, or even like in New York, that I've places that I've been that were not as popular. If you think about Dumbo, where like everyone goes to in Brooklyn, or like Jane's Carousel, and you'll get a view of the New York City skyline. I've been going down there for years, and I was going down there before it was popular. So yeah, I didn't know that it would become what it is now, and that so many people would go down on a regular basis. But I will say, and this is probably contrary to what you said before, you still got to hit up those tourist traps. Like if you're traveling and you're like, you're not doing the thing that everyone is doing, why are you going? You got to do both. You got to do the hidden gems,
True.
and you got to do the tourist traps. You got to do both. So I mean,
true.
that's what traveling is about. To sort of seeing the world from a different perspective than what you see on an everyday basis. So just as long as you're getting a healthy mix of both, you're doing the right thing.
No, yeah, I actually like that. That's what traveling is, and so maybe one of the things that if we're going to make a recommendation to our listeners is to actually think through when you're going to a lot of these places, because I know like a lot of people, for instance, Brazil, there's that famous steps, and everybody wants the shot where there's no one. Apparently, you don't go at midday; you go in the morning.
Yeah.
So probably think
Any
through.
place, every single place you go to, if you're gonna
Mhm.
go to the most traveled, like the tourist spot or the touristy things in that city,
Yeah,
always go in the morning. You gotta
always
try
go
to
in the morning.
you gotta try to wake up before everyone uh that is visiting goes, and you don't want to go on a weekend either. You definitely want to do it on a Saturday. If you're traveling
Wow.
4 days and you know you have a Tuesday in there or you have
Hmm.
a Wednesday, try to go to the most touristy visited location on a Wednesday as
Wow.
opposed to going on a Saturday or Sunday.
Saturday. Yo, tips, 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 tips. Listen to these tips, because I think all of these tips are probably going to help you get the shots, the videos that you really need to get. But we're going to close this podcast. And again, Josh, thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Young Black Travelers podcast. You've dropped gems that I'm sure people are going to take away and better themselves, right? And better their craft. But before we go, just drop your social media or any information about how our listeners can contact you.
Yes, you can catch me on Instagram at Joshua Dwain, or actually Joshua underscore Dwain. That's JOSHUA underscore DWAIN. And my website is www.joshuadwayne.com. You can catch me on both those platforms.
Good, good. And listen, go follow him, go check out his stuff. And again, thank you, Josh, for joining us. And thank you for listening to the Young Black Travelers podcast today. We also want to remind you to follow us on Instagram at Young Black Travelers Blog, to follow us on Threads at Young Black Travelers, to follow us on TikTok at Young Black Travelers, and to follow us, well, go to our website, youngblacktravelers.com. Before we go, we always want to remind you to be safe while you're traveling. Use caution. You know, during the pandemic, we reminded you to use sanitary practices. Those still stand. Wash your hands, cover your mouth. If it's wearing masks, do that. Whatever is going to keep you safe and help you to travel and see the world, do what you have to do. And again, thank you for tuning in today. And thank you, Josh, for joining us. Have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest of your year. Take care.